Good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much again for another files of Cyber Monday files. I know it's been tasking for us to have a lot of work done at the background as well as on the onset of creating the awareness, and it's not easy for us. But as of today, I would like to touch upon cyber victims and cyber predators. So, your thoughts, ma'am?
Good morning. And yes, creating cyber security awareness is a daunting task because the rate at which cyber crimes are going up and the innovativeness of the perpetrators is like, I mean, one is at a loss as to what comes next. And every day there is a next. So,
Correct.
yet we do our best and we try to keep our viewers aware of what all is happening in the world and what all they need to be aware of so that they don't get scammed.
Got it. So when I talk about a victim or a predator per nature, at the end of the day, they are humans and they are somebody who have learned the knack to use the technology much better. Will that be a statement that can we make about them because they're innovative in nature?
Definitely. The technology is something that they are very well versed in. That's the advantage of the Gen Next or whatever, the next generation, call it Gen Z or any of the generations. But once this technology became like something that is introduced to a child at the age of sometimes even just 6 months or 1 year. So by the time they grow up, for them, it is very easy to navigate through these technologies. Now, navigating the technologies, they know how to read up on the web. Internet is open. They know how to read things. They know how to. They get a lot of information, good and bad, and then it all depends on you and your perspective whether you want to go into the good side or whether you want to go to the bad side. Or a lot of times when you're in a space where you are not really emotionally stable, then you are on the victim side.
So that brings me to the one question saying how early is early for us to have the control? And where do you think that thin line of being human in a real world is getting converted into either a victim or a predator on the online world?
The early is never too early. We need to have that control right at the moment a device comes into our hands. Same goes for parents. The moment you give a device to your children, that is the point of time when you know that this device needs to be controlled, because this is a two-edged sword. It could be used for the good, it could be used for the bad, and not just used for the bad, maybe it would do something bad, as just as if you pick up something educational or something informational or something that enhances your personality, it would be good. But if you are in a space where you are victimized, where you are bullied, then it would again go into the bad space. So it's never too early. Device हाथ में आया, control शुरू. Okay. Now when we come to the where you become a victim or a predator, all depends on your sort of thought process. Sometimes there is something like inner urge to do something. There is an inner urge to be somebody whom you cannot be in your regular physical space because everybody knows you. So when every time we say that the internet gives you a sort of an anonymity, which lets you be whoever you wanted to be, irrespective of, without any societal pressures, basically, because people don't know who you are. So then that could be either good, that could be bad. When you go when you go online, children could either be, if they are not very expressive in their physical space, they feel shy, they might become very expressive, over expressive. Maybe they are giving out too much of information. That could lead to their victimization. So it's a space where the navigation is very, very, I would say, no, it's not just difficult. It's a fine rope that you're treading. It's like walking on a tightrope. One step here, you'll fall. The other step there, you'll fall. As long as you keep that balance, that is the only time when you are going to navigate very smooth.
Correct. So that kind of brings me to one of these statements that I happened to have during one of my interactions with one of the teachers here in Bangalore, saying that it's a very thin line for me to tread. I do not know the student whether they are using Chat GPT. Can I be friendly with them to understand whether they're actually using Chat GPT, or should I bring in that force of victim? I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I want to bring you to tell me whether you're using, she's like, I'm confused because the moment I say tell me, they're not going to give me the answer. When I'm going to ask me, they're going to give me a different answer, which I do not know how to validate. And that brings me to this question saying that how are we supposed to validate if the kids are being a little smarter than you? How are we supposed to validate? And how do we take control of that?
Right, true. So now whether the kids are smarter than the teachers or their parents, yes, they definitely are. You can safely assume that they are much more smarter than you. ChatGPT is probably the simplest thing that the teacher poor thing could understand. I have seen, I think you were also there in a
Yeah,
session where we've seen students who understand Kali Linux, who understand awesome techniques, who
correct,
understand what a virtual machine is, something that maybe probably few of the parents or teachers would also not know.
correct,
So it is very safe to assume that the children are technologically much, much more advanced than you are.
correct, correct.
Don't bother to question them. Now, how do you ensure that that technology is not misused? There comes the
Actually,
technique, because they know how to use the technology. Now, how do you guide them to using that technology only for the good,
hmm.
not for the bad?
Hmm. I remember the baffled reactions of the teachers when the guy was telling how to use one of the tools to go back to the scammer as well, and they were like, "What is he talking about?" Was the reaction that I could read on their faces. But given said that, and social media engineering is another argument which kind of pushes people back. So I'm I want to present something online, but somewhere it either becomes a material of a troll or becomes a material of goodness. When it becomes troll, it is too insensitive to people to move on. But why do they become insensitive? What drives them, the other person, to be insensitive of the content being posted?
Insensitivity on both parts, I would say, or rather, what we call freedom of speech. So
Hmm,
the
hmm,
one who posts something feels that I have the freedom to do this,
hmm, hmm,
and the other people around him or her, and those who feel that the thought process is incorrect, again have a freedom of speech and expression, feeling that they can say whatever they like, because this is something that I am not, this is a thought process I'm not adhering to.
hmm, hmm,
So that freedom of speech, so-called freedom of speech, how much freedom of speech or expression do you have? That's something that we need to understand, because my freedom of speech should not encroach somebody else's feelings,
hmm, hmm, hmm,
vice versa. Now, unless and until we have this strength of understanding that I am, I have my own thought process. Everybody may not adhere to it.
hmm,
I
hmm,
am free to express my feelings, and they might hurt a few people, but they are my feelings. They are my thoughts.
hmm,
And when it comes back to me, I mean, somebody doesn't like my thought process, then I need to be in an position of acceptance that people, not everybody is going to like my thought process, and
hmm,
people are
hmm,
going to counter it. Now, when both places, what makes a lot of difference is the language used.
hmm, hmm,
As
hmm,
long as my thought process is put in a very uh, decent language, where I only say that this is what I believe in, and the
hmm,
person who counters me also counters me in a very decent language, where he or she puts forward her thought process that
hmm.
this is how I feel. As long as that happens, we are having a decent conversation. It's perfectly fine. Trolling is when it goes beyond a level where hurtful, abusive behavior comes. So again, we are again on a fine line.
Hmm.
Whether
This
that
kind
freedom
of
of expression is only freedom of expression, and how do I express my feelings? Once you
because
start typing, there's a problem with everything will come out. Now, before you put that post button, you need to read it and think over, is
correct,
this exactly how I want to convey my thoughts?
correct. So that comes up to the other way also. Like you said, insensitivity. Yes, before I post, I need to be cautious. When I read, also I need to be cautious because not everybody is going to be in line with what I feel, and that should be perfectly fine. But taking drastic steps because of that, how do we make them understand that this is just a post? Do not take it personally, because I have seen in the past week itself, I could see 2 3 cases coming across saying that one person has posted some comment or content on the social media, and has been a victim of a trolling activity and ended up killing themselves up, and that is completely not acceptable. Are the current generation's mind become so adaptive to taking everything for their personal benefit? Like, I take it personally that if you don't validate, I don't want to do my job. I mean, how does that mind come into that weakness? Where does it come? Or is it only because it's online? How does it work on?
Yeah. So what happens when you're online is that your reactions are immediate,
Hmm, hmm,
and we give a lot of unfortunately we give a lot of importance to, because the projection is to a much larger crowd. Now, if two or three people stand around physically together and there is a difference of opinion, then the
hmm,
difference of opinion is limited to those two or three people, and whatever verbal exchange, whether it is decent or not, is within those two or three people. What happens online? It goes out into the world. You don't know how many people are reading it. So your feeling is that the abuse that I am getting is being displayed to umpteen people, people who probably know me, probably don't know me, but are still judging me because I'm being told a few things, or there are few things being said to me. So the impact is higher.
hmm, hmm,
Your feeling of being maybe insulted or abused is amplified by the fact that the number of people and reading that abuse are going to be much, much higher.
hmm, 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 hmm.
So the anxiety, the stress, the feeling is stronger. Now, whether it goes to the level of feeling like committing suicide or feeling like getting out of everybody's space or whatever, is an individual's reaction. But
Hmm.
that's what basically amplifies the feeling.
So how that also comes to the fact that when I look at it, the person who's putting out their aggressive thoughts also knows that they will be a victim, or they'll be in a spotlight for themselves. Are they doing it, and that does it escalate to a next level of being into a bully, or in sort of any criminal activity, or do they have that hand over when they know what the repercussions could be?
Sometimes it's a immediate reaction but does not have any thought process behind it. It's just a thought. I mean, sometimes it's just a reaction.
Hmm, hmm,
Sometimes it is sort of a inbuilt nature that makes a person oppose very strongly whatever doesn't fit into his or her thought
hmm,
process.
hmm, hmm.
So, or maybe if I do it once, I do it twice, thrice, then I get the thrill of knowing that the moment I
Hmm.
start trolling somebody, a lot of people will join me, and I get a sort of fan following. Gives me a little thrill that what I
Hmm.
cannot do otherwise, or what I would not have got otherwise in the physical space, is something that I can manage in this space. Now, whether it goes ahead into cyberbullying or anything further on, that all depends on the person's thought process and his or her followers' thought process. I mean, they might support you on one issue, and if they don't start supporting on all your issues, They are not blindly following everything that you are saying. Then it might de-escalate. But if it moves ahead and you start feeling that yes, a lot of people like what I do and it motivates you, then there is every possibility that just a trolling would go ahead to cyberbullying and probably bigger crimes as well.
So when you talk about that, so there was a season during the pandemic. I wasn't sure where it started. Like there were a bunch of social media influencers that were created in that time period, which actually gave me a question to ask, saying that their content was primarily to justify or personification of a person, or give their own perception about a movie or about some event or certain video or audio that was probably recorded ages or years back, and their only thing was to give out their perception. But that ended up becoming a lot of people ending up trolling people, taking things out of context, and that was like a cycle that went on. And I saw a larger part, probably I myself saw it a larger part in the pandemic. I'm not sure if that is true, but that is a reality. In such cases, what happens? Because there were people who did during the pandemic. It was very stressful for us, for many of them. At the same time, it was also relatably, I the only world that I could feel I'm living is online, and you end up becoming in another zone out of it. Has it actually increased in the crime, and has it increased in the mental health? Yes, it has increased. But why was my question? I mean, how does it matter when I put my perception out there?
Matters because basically now when you're looking at influencers, influencers are basically what I would say advertisements. So they make a space for themselves, they create a space for themselves, they get a fan following, and then obviously that fan following will have people adhering, accepting your views, waiting for your views on certain maybe products or certain movies or whichever space you are. So there's a group of people who are going to wait for you to give your thoughts on certain things. Now, evidently, when there is a group of people who likes your thought process, there's going to be a group of people who does not like your thought process. So there is going to be a repercussion, as in if you give out your thoughts on a certain product or a certain movie or a certain place. There are the food people who blog on food, people who blog for travel places, and the it's an endless list. So now there's going to be one set who's not going to adhere to your thought process or has been actually promoted to counter your thought process. You're going to troll it. Do you accept it? Yes, you accept it because you are basically in a space where in the public space. If you're going to say something, accept it that not everybody is going to like it, and there are people who are going to counter you. So that's sort of a sense that is something that anybody who's in the public eye needs to accept, that as many fans I will have, as many people who are against me I will have. Now, to what levels this sort of thing escalates to is all dependent on how you handle the whole scenario. How much do you react? Do you react to everything that happens around? Do you spend too much of time on social media trying to figure out how people are reacting to you, or how is it addictive? Is that social media addictive to you, or are you using it only as a medium? Because a few days ago, I think Facebook and Instagram went down, and I had somebody who desperately called me, asking me sometimes something like 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the night, asking, "Are you able to access your Facebook?" I said, I don't know. I don't normally access my any of my social medias in the evening. I mean, I have a timeline after which I don't bother. कल सवेरे देख लेंगे ऐसा social media पे ऐसा कुछ नहीं आता जो I need to know right now. If somebody wants to convey something to me right now, then better call me up and say, okay, this is something that I need to know. So I said, I have absolutely no idea. Give me a minute. I had to actually start my device and check up whether Facebook was working or not. And then I saw a lot of posts where they were saying that Facebook and Instagram is down. Now, what makes a person feel agitated at something like 9:30 or 10 in the night that my Facebook or my Instagram is not working? What makes a person do that? It is because that person is addicted to checking up his or her social media or platforms all the time.
All the time.
So whether you are addicted, whether you feel that sort of pressure to know everything, fear of missing out, what's happening. I mean, I didn't even know, despite the fact that I am into cyberspace, I just didn't know that they crashed. And in any case, if they crashed and they're not working, hardly makes any difference to me. Actually, I would be saying that okay, fine. For some time, nobody's going to write anything and put anything there. Probably some respite for some people who are all the time there. Maybe they ensured that there was some breathing space. So, but then I didn't even notice. But the lady in question did, was like sort of what happened.
Correct.
So that's your personal perception of how long you need to be on social media, how much do you need to get affected by what is written there, how much importance do you give to that virtual world. Just as we give a little importance to our physical world, are they balanced?
So that again, I wonder where the time goes when I talk to you. I just don't want the time to end, or I just want to make sure that it kind of works on to. I'll just continue the conversation that we had today for the next Cyber Monday files. I want to keep it crisp for the people also to hear saying that, okay, this is something that we need to first accept and then imply on it. The acceptance, like you said during our last session, acceptance is far too low compared to what we see as of today. So
Yes.
so the next session I would definitely would love to see or understand how does this particular incidents such as acceptance of the online presence and their validation can convert a person or can change the entire character behavior of a person from online persona to a bully to a blackmailer. So that journey I would love to take it up, but in upcoming cyber files.
Looking forward to our next Cyber Monday.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.